Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Pop Retro 1 on Instagram and the Twitter, and facebook.com/popretro1. Wanted to take a few minutes here today to talk about, I don't know, this might be maybe my favorite release in a long time from the distributor label Vinegar Syndrome, boutique distributor, and that is a double feature of the Italian thrillers Nothing Underneath, and if we flip it around, Too Beautiful to Die. Now, Nothing Underneath came out in 1985, and gosh, you know, this is, maybe it's because I was an 80s kid. I was born in the mid-70s, so I mean, when this came out, I was 9 years old. I didn't see this when I was a kid. It was a big hit in Italy, I've only recently learned. Didn't even see it until much, much later in the cable and VHS days in the late 90s. And so I imagine people who grew up watching giallo films and thriller films in the 60s and 70s probably got into the 80s and just saw that stylized, what do you want to call it? Just that sort of super pretty MTV aesthetic, I guess we'll call it. Supermodels, the neon lighting, the dry ice and smoke everywhere. All that type of thing, stuff that you think of when you think of what the 80s looks like, and the bright colors and all of that. And so I imagine people probably coming into the decade as adults were like, oh man, this is just, it's too much. You know, just what they're trying to do here, dressing up, just typical fare. But if you were a kid in that era, like I was in that era, I think it was just the best thing, because it looked so surreal and so larger than life. And this film, Nothing Underneath, has that look to it that I remember growing up and going, oh my gosh, this is so slick. This is the people in it they're so pretty, they're beautiful. They're, I mean, it's about supermodels. Basically, you have a guy who is a park ranger in Wyoming at Yellowstone Park. His twin sister, has gone off to Milan to model because she's a supermodel. And when she disappears, he heads over to Milan to look into it, to investigate, where he also meets up with the police commissioner, inspector, whatever they call it over there in Italy, played by Donald Pleasence. So of course, any Donald Pleasence fan, you're going to have fun watching him in this. And the other models, all these models work for, I guess, you know, a modeling agency. They start dropping like flies. They start getting killed because they were all involved in something that has gone on. And so he is over there with this police commissioner trying to solve this mystery. And in the middle of it all, you meet all the models, you meet all these pretty people, and it's a good mystery. I think I knew what was going to happen, or who the killer was. I think I knew who the killer was before the end, but especially, I loved the ending. Once the ending got there, I was like, oh, I'm not so sure now. And then when I think back, I think, you know, I had like 2 or 3 different people I thought the killer might be. So if you're into that guess who the killer is, the type of stuff, this is a fun one to watch. And you may figure it out, you know, fairly early, or you may not. I don't usually think about those things when I'm watching a movie. I just kind of watch it to enjoy it, and I'm not obsessed with trying to figure out who done it. But nonetheless, it was a fun watch. And Renee Simonson, who plays one of the models, she is Duran Duran bassist John Taylor's ex-girlfriend. They were dating, I think, when this was being shot and when this was released. I don't know, they dated from like 85 to 89. This was released in 85, so don't know if they were actually dating at that time. But even just that little bit of knowledge just kind of tells you, you know, even the people involved were involved in some high society, high glamour, and that sort of stuff, to put it succinctly. So Nothing Underneath, directed by Carlo Vanzina, and again, it was a big hit in Italy, but was not so much outside of Italy. And so if you caught it back in the day on VHS and on cable, you were watching something that a lot of people didn't see. And now completely, fully restored by Vinegar Syndrome. I definitely recommend it. On the flip side, we've got Too Beautiful to Die, which came out 3 years later in 1988. Now, Too Beautiful to Die is a sequel. In Italy, it wasn't a direct sequel. It was marketed as a direct sequel. Basically, Nothing Underneath 2, or whatever the Italian translation is with a 2 at the end, because the distributors knew they had a hit with Nothing Underneath, and they said, sorry, we're not changing the name for this movie 3 years later, which was from the same producers. However, different director, different stars, completely different story too. So there's no relation to the previous movie as far as what's on screen and the story. And so Too Beautiful to Die has to do with models in a modeling agency who are involved in music videos. And so there's a director of a music video that's involved in some shenanigans, and again, these models start dropping and dying, and you got to figure it out. There's a cop on the scene. He's trying to figure out what's going on and solve the case. And there's a family member involved, also trying to solve the case of a missing loved one. And so I guess it sounds more like, when I put it that way, it sounds kind of similar. But nonetheless, it's a different movie with a completely different storyline. But the through line is that it involves models, it involves pretty people, it involves people who work in the entertainment industry and in front of and behind cameras. So there you have it, Too Beautiful to Die. So this new Vinegar Syndrome package, it's great because it includes both movies. And so I appreciated that. I should also mention that Too Beautiful to Die 1988 is very 1988. It's really, really slick. If you like the aesthetic and the look of the 1980s, you can't go wrong with checking this out. And you even get a glimpse of behind the scenes, what it might have looked like shooting a music video, because that kind of plays large in a lot of what's going on in the story of Too Beautiful to Die. Okay, let's open up the package here and take a look. That's the slipcover, which you can purchase through vinegarsyndrome.com if you purchase it there. The standard disc looks like this. It says Nothing Underneath, and it has the bonus feature there listed in the corner with some alternate art. Comes on 2 discs, and there's a look at the discs. And I'll take these discs out so we can look at what is on the reverse, which is actually the Too Beautiful to Die art with Nothing Underneath listed as the bonus feature there. So depending on which one you like best, you can switch that out. Stick these back in so I don't scratch my Blu-rays. Lots of special features. I enjoyed watching the interviews with, I believe it was one of the screenwriters, two different screenwriters that were involved in the first movie, in Nothing Underneath. They have interviews in Italian and with subtitled, but very fun, very good listens. And also Nothing Underneath has 2 different commentary tracks, one with The Hysteria Continues, those guys with that podcast of the same name, and Rachel Nisbet, which was very informative. Enjoyed listening to it, both commentaries, so learned some things that I didn't know before. And on the second disc, the Too Beautiful to Die, you have a long, over 40-minute interview with the director. What's his name? I'll find it here as I'm looking. There he is. Dario Piana, or Piana, Piana, who was a prolific commercial director before doing Too Beautiful to Die. And it's a really good interview. It's fun listening to him. He try to make it what he did palatable. It's almost like, you know, especially at the time, it was such a commercial thing where you knew that critics were going to hate a movie like this because it's just pretty people, style over substance, a lot of things the 80s are accused of being. And even today, although he's happy, it seems that people now enjoy the film, you know, for what it was, and as the time capsule that it is, looking back on that time, he still kind of repeats himself over and over about how it's not high art, it's not high art. I get that, I understand, but you know, and I'm thinking, dude, just enjoy it. You know, those of us who like this stuff, actually, some of us actually flock to the things the critics hate. I was always that way. If I saw this listed in the back of the TV guide with 1 star, I was like, okay, you know what? That's probably a fun genre movie, and I'm gonna check it out. And so, yeah, either way, just a lot of good information in that interview that Vinegar Syndrome included on the disc as a special feature. So, and there are a couple other things like some, some, what do you call it? I'll actually tell you what it's called when there it is, alternate ending storyboards and some deleted scenes storyboards. So these guys that directed both films were big commercial guys and more like from the world of advertising and graphic arts and things of that nature. And so you can see some of the work in some of the special features for those missing scenes and deleted scenes, especially on Nothing Underneath, which is where a lot of that wound up in the special features with the storyboards to even a deleted ending. So, and again, I really, the Nothing Underneath ending, I think is great. I love it. And so there you have it. One of my favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases of 2021, the double feature of Nothing Underneath and Too Beautiful to Die. And, you know, Renee Simonson, you know, the star of Nothing Underneath, man, that's frameable right there. So, hey, thanks for checking out this video. Let me know what you think about these movies. Are they giallo? That's another question. They're listed as giallo. The people who study this stuff say, yes, they're giallo. I mean, late stage, obviously, well past when giallo was super popular there in the early and mid 70s. But I see some people online, you know, saying, that's not a giallo. And definitely Nothing Underneath feels like it has more of the giallo touchstones than Too Beautiful to Die. To me, Too Beautiful to Die feels more like a giallo mixed with thriller, mixed with 90s erotic thriller feel, which there's nothing wrong with that to me. I love all of those subgenres. And so, but it is interesting to watch people kind of go back and forth. Is it a giallo? What is it? So either way, it's an enjoyable movie to me. And if you are a giallo fan and you like the 80s and that aesthetic and that look, you'll enjoy these movies too. So, all right, I will be back tomorrow with another video, and I hope to see you back here as well.